So this is your Women's Day, and so I really want to focus on a woman in the Bible, okay? So I want to focus on this woman that many of us may be familiar with, the woman with the issue of blood, with the blood issue, okay? But I want to talk on this morning. I want to talk about the issues beyond the issue. Really, the issues beyond the issue that we know about. Okay, because the woman with the issue of blood may be familiar to a lot of people, but I want to talk about the issues beyond the issue. So then some of us may know the story, but we never should assume that everybody knows the story. So then Luke tells us in chapter 8, verse 43 to 48, the King James Version, when thinking about the issues beyond the issue, the Bible tells us, and a woman having an issue of blood 12 years, which had spent all her living upon physicians, neither could be healed of any, came behind him. She came behind Jesus and touched the border of his garment. Maybe you've heard it, touch the hem of his garment. And immediately her issue of blood staunched. And verse 45 says, Jesus said, who touched me? When all denied, Peter and they that were with him said, Master, the multitude throng thee and press thee, and sayest thou, who touched me? And Jesus said, somebody hath touched me, for I perceive that virtue has gone out of me. And when the woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling and falling down before him. She declared unto him before all the people for what cause she had touched him, and how she was immediately healed. And he said unto her, Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole. Go in peace. So again, I want to talk about the issues beyond the issue. The choir sang a little bit ago a song, and in the lyrics they said, the Lord is blessing me right now. Then they said, he woke me up this morning. I was clothed in my right mind. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Wearing green in May shows colleagues, loved ones, and really people that we walk by that we care about their mental health. Green is an international symbol, if you will. It's worn even in memory of loved ones in the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month. The green ribbon that many may see is an international symbol of mental health awareness. The choir said, he woke me up this morning. I was clothed in my right mind. And so it behooves us to be concerned for our mental health. Church, did you know that an average, an adult will say, I'm fine 14 times a week? Yet only 19% of those persons who say, I'm fine, actually mean it. Let me put it this way. In the church, people will ask you how you're doing. And a great percentage of folks will say, I'm blessed and highly, but only a percentage of those persons really mean that when they say it. Mental health awareness this month was observed the first time in the year 1949. And we need to know that hospitals and health systems, they play an important role in the conversations that we have around mental health. But the truth of the matter is we need to have more conversations in our churches. Because you see, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, nearly 1 in 5 Americans lives with a mental health condition. This can include any mental, behavioral, or emotional disorder, like depression, like anxiety or mood disorders like bipolar. It can also include personality disorders, psychotic disorders like schizophrenia, but also eating disorders, and substance use and abuse, and not to mention even trauma. Now, those are different types, when we think about any mental, behavioral, or emotional disorder. But then there are factors that contribute to declining mental health. Or should I say there are issues that contribute to declining mental health, like job loss. There are people in here today who have lost a job before. Did you know that could be a contributing factor to declining mental health? Homelessness is also an issue. Not to mention grief, sickness, isolation, financial challenges, and even conflict in relationships. Again, many of us here today have dealt with one or more of these issues. So then the woman in our text, she dealt with issues. Now many of us are aware of the primary issue. So she dealt with at least 4 of the things I mentioned. She dealt with sickness, and many of us are familiar with that one. She also dealt with isolation. I named that as one of the declining, one of the contributing factors to declining mental health. She dealt with isolation, she dealt with sickness, financial challenges, and conflict in relationships. So church, you've heard her story. But today, in light of mental health awareness, we can consider her issue beyond the parts we know. She got her healing, yet issues lingered. There's somebody here today where the Lord bless you real good. God gave you some things, and then there were some issues still remaining. God gave you that car. The issue is, how are you going to pay the bill? God gave you that house. The issue is, you don't feel like mopping and cleaning the floors. God gave you that child. The issue is, they don't want to listen. God gave you that opportunity to go to school, but the issue is you don't want to do your homework. Somebody here knows that there can be issues beyond the issue. Now, when we look at the Bible, understand that we are in the book of Luke. And Luke himself is said to have been a physician. Now, I don't know if Luke was a mental health professional. But I do know that Luke brings up this woman's physical issue. But what else? When looking at this woman's life, she would have had to overcome isolation. You see, her blood issue actually created another issue. Isolation had driven her from people because she was considered as ceremonially unclean. Understand, church, that in her day, in the days of antiquity, in Jewish daily life, there were at least 3 things that made a person ceremonially unclean. One was her type of bleeding. Another was touching the dead. And the other was leprosy. So for 12 long years, she was ostracized from society because of her bleeding issue. Now that she was healed, she would have to acclimate herself to how worship is now. It's been 12 years. You see, many of us understand because we dealt with COVID for almost 3 years. And still dealing with it. So imagine her entering into her faith community again. By the time she gets back, they're wearing masks on their faces. By the time she gets back, they're 6 feet apart. But by the time she gets back to worship in the temple, only a few folks in the ladies' room at a time. All things had changed. So that's an issue. Beyond the issue, she had to learn how to enter a romantic relationship again. The Bible does not tell us that she was married. But if she had a husband and he was faithful, like many husbands in here today, he would have waited on her. It's been 12 long years.
Good God.
She would have, because you see, she would not be able. Come on back to me. Come on back. She would not have been able to touch anyone or to be touched. This means, come on back, church, she couldn't hug her children. There you go. You're back now. You're back. She couldn't hug her babies. The Bible does not say, Pastor say we're still there. So she was simply, I told you she had issues. Beyond the issue. This is Women's Day. So not only would she have to deal with the issue of isolation, but she would also have physical challenges. Now, some of us don't want to hear from folks who got their blessing. You know, sometimes you know somebody got a blessing. You know, and so you don't want to hear the parts of their lives that where they still have challenges. But this woman, the Bible tells us, verse 43 tells us that she had spent all of her living on physicians. So she received a physical healing, but not a financial healing. No more bleeding, but bills still had to be paid. She would have to pay for housing. She would have to pay for food. She would have to pay for utilities. She would have to pay for debt. And she would have to, of course, have clothing. Maybe she would want one of these nice corsages. She would still have to pay. But she had a financial challenge because the Bible tells us in verse 43 that she has spent all that she had. Isolation. That's an issue beyond the issue. Financial challenges, an issue beyond the issue. But then she would have had conflict in relationships, not just in personal relationships, but also in community. Verse 47 tells us that when this woman saw that she was not hid, she came trembling and falling down before Jesus, and she declared unto him before all people for what cause she had touched. Oh, before all people. So church, that's right, Pastor. They knew all of her business. Conflict in relationships. She would have to live among those same people. She got her physical healing, but we know how people can be. Can you imagine the conflict in relationships? I mean, she may have received a miracle from Jesus, but I'm going to watch to see if things are really different. I'm going to keep my eyes on her. When she comes to church for Women's Day, I know she got a healing, but she needs to sit on a special bench. You know people, don't you? I mean, she was unclean for 12 years. She needs another 12 years to get it right. You know people, don't you? She shouldn't be out here so early. It's Women's Day. And she shouldn't be out here so early after being healed. You know people, all the people with an opinion, the people looking, the people talking. Oh, how many of us know that the energy around you can affect your mental health too? People and shame is a powerful thing in many communities. This woman may have felt ashamed, even though she knows that the Lord worked in her life. She's still experiencing shame from her community. And that can be like a heavy load. There is an author by the name of Miss Cole Arthur Riley. She wrote a book, a brilliant black woman, wrote a book entitled This Here Flesh. And in that book, she says that when shame enters us, it tends to make its home in our bodies. She says your body can become, because of shame, your body can become a new kind of burden. So can you imagine being physically healed, but because of conflict in your community, you carry shame now like a heavy burden. Conflict in relationships is a factor that could affect her mental health. So the isolation and the sickness is no longer there, but the isolation, overcoming isolation and financial challenges and conflict in relationships means that she would have to take care of her mind and not ignore her mental health. And I came by Coley Springs to remind you that you have to take care of your mental health. You have to take care of your mind. You see, the Bible tells us that Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. With all your mind. So if you're going to love God in totality, then you must take care of your mind. And we need to understand that one of the ways that God shows us that God cares for our mental health is by providing us with what we need. A great therapist, access to medication, a good support system, and time with God. You see, loving God with our minds can mean utilizing what God provides. There should not be a stigma attached to mental see, people are sick and mentally. We start to push them to the edge of society. We call them, and I don't like this word, crazy. But the fact of the matter is, this woman would need full support so that she could be healthy mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. You see, because Jesus had gone home. Jesus was on his way to Jairus' house. So Jesus was busy continuing his earthly work. So Jesus had gone on to finish his earthly work. She was healed, and she would have to live with some issues beyond her issues. But the good news was, God would still be with her. And the fact is, church, you have to remember that God is still with you, even with the things that you have to live with. I'm not going to stand up here and insult your intelligence and tell you that everything is going to be taken away. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that everything is going to be all right in the way that you define it. I am going to tell you that when you serve our mighty God, God will walk with you, and God will talk with you, and God will hold your hand, and you don't have to face the dark corners of the world without the light of the Lord. You see, Job had to live with the tragedy of losing everything. He lost his children, and he lost his health, and he lost his wealth, and he lost his livestock, his crops, and he lost his relationship with his wife and his friends, but God was still with him. David and Bathsheba, they lost their little baby man child. That baby died never to return again, but God was still with David and Bathsheba. Joseph had to live with the fact that he had a shady family. Shady family members who sold him into Egyptian slavery, but God was still with him. The Apostle Paul, he had to live with a thorn that he said that he had. Paul said, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, was given to me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me 3 times. I pleaded with the Lord to take it away, but God said, my grace is sufficient, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Paul had to live with that thorn, but God was with him. All I'm trying to tell you, church, is that God will be with you. Everything that is difficult in this life won't be taken away. So remember that God's power is made perfect in weakness. When you pass through the waters, you'll have to go through some water, but God will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, and you'll have to go through some rivers, but God will be with you. When you walk through the fire, and Lord knows you'll have to walk through some fire, you won't be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze, because God will be with you. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. We are persecuted, but not forsaken. We are cast down, but not destroyed. Because we always carry around in our bodies the death of Jesus. I said we carry around Jesus in our bodies. The life of Jesus is in your body. So take care of yourself. Take care of yourself spiritually. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself emotionally. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself when you think about your physical body. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself mentally, because your body belongs to the Lord. Your body belongs to the one who sacrificed his body. I said your body belongs to the one who sacrificed his body. Jesus died on the cross and rose on the 3rd day so that we would not suffer the death penalty for our own sins. So no matter your circumstances, when you go to the therapist's office, take the name of Jesus with you. When you go to your physician, take the name of Jesus with you. When you go to work, take the name of Jesus with you. No matter what your conversations are, take the name of Jesus with you. Take the name of Jesus with you, child of sorrow and woe. It will joy and comfort give you. Take it wherever you go. In pain, Jesus. In trouble, Jesus. In doubt, Jesus. In despair, Jesus. In confusion, Jesus. Let all heaven and earth proclaim. Kings and kingdoms will all pass away. But there's something. There's something about